Hello, everybody, and welcome back to our show. This is the Daily Thread.
Monday.
Yes, it's a new week.
Wow.
And a lot happened over the weekend.
Long weekend.
Really long weekend.
It's very funny. You know, the weekends are very long, and then once we start on Monday, the weeks are very long.
Yeah, and we're about to end the first month of 2023.
Wow, that was quick, too.
Yeah, look at that. Before you know it, it's me Pesach. It's scary.
But we were just talking about before, well, Purim first, obviously.
Yeah, Purim.
Well, Yud Shvat this week, and then Tu B'Shvat.
Yeah, big month.
Which we said is a turning point into spring on the Hebrew calendar.
Yeah.
And then heading into Purim, believe it or not, and then Pesach.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, everything goes that way.
That's how it works, yeah.
It was a wild weekend.
Yeah, so let's get into sort of the stories of this weekend. Going into Shabbos was a little bit heavy here in America, and there was obviously this terrorist attack in Neve Yaakov,
right
outside of a shul, as people were exiting, and 7 people lost their lives in that attack.
Right.
And we'll talk about that, but we then turned on our phones after Shabbos to see that there was another attack in Yerushalayim, a 13-year-old with a gun.
Right.
Who Baruch Hashem didn't kill anybody, but he injured a few, and he was shot right away by an Israeli with a gun. So it seems like tensions are up again in the Middle East, which is it's a new government. It's now a new sort of testing them. I think it's in response.
Every time there's a new government.
I posted something on Twitter, and the response I got was, "Well, what do you have to say about the 8 Palestinians that were killed in Jenin?" I said, well, those people were terrorists. Those are armed terrorists.
Right.
You guys killed civilians, one being a 14-year-old.
Right.
And obviously, you know, Joe Biden and Blinken, you know, they voiced their condolences, and they condemned the attack. I know
Blinken is in the Middle East. He arrived yesterday.
Yeah, he's in Cairo, right? He stopped in Cairo.
He's gonna meet in Cairo with the Egyptians. He's gonna meet with Netanyahu, of course, I think, and then he's going to meet the Palestinian Authority with Mohammed Abbas.
Oh.
But this is you said you hit it right on the head. This is a new government, and they're being challenged. They're being dared by the terrorists to see how far they're going to go. Because you know what? The more Israel cracks down on the terrorists that run organizations like Hamas or the Palestinian Authority, the more money they can extract for compensation from the United States and from the Europeans and from even some of the Arab Gulf countries. Because, you know, you want the whole region to tumble into war. If you don't want war, you got to pay up, buddy. You got to pay up a few $1 billion, and then maybe we could tone it down a little bit. And talk about the cycle of violence. This is a cycle of money. It's crazy, but
this is happening. This is obviously not the first time tensions have gotten, you know, high over there in the last year. Even we've been in and out of rocket attacks back and forth, and they fire rockets, and Israel goes ahead and they strike their military operation points and their depots, and we kill 5 people a part of Hamas, and then we wait for them to kill another 5 Jews, and then we do the same thing. Benjamin Netanyahu is back in power, and he's always sort of been, I think, more of, you know, to the right, and he's been more aggressive when it comes to dealing with terrorists. Certainly more aggressive than Naftali Bennett was.
It sounds like you're being critical of him, though.
Who, Netanyahu?
Yeah.
No, I'm not being critical.
Not cracking down enough. You know.
It's only been less than 36 hours. Really, it's been less than 48 hours. That is since this attack took place, and I really hope that they're going to have a price to pay for the lives they took.
Well, you have to understand what are the considerations of, like, we know what Netanyahu is about. We know that he is no nonsense most of the time. Although sometimes during the Obama administration, which was now a long time ago, he had to say certain things to placate the Democrats and Obama, who was very anti-Israel and very liberal. But now he doesn't have that problem, not because Joe Biden is less liberal than Obama, but Biden is not playing with 100%, full deck.
He's also dealing with his own stuff, finding documents in his underwear drawer.
Yeah, He has one eye on his 81st birthday and the other eye on the 2024 election. So it's not in his best interest to be cracking down on Israel. But this is the point, Nachi. The point is, and this is what the right wants, and this is what Netanyahu is going to have to endorse at some point, you need to have the death penalty for terrorists. Okay.
Well, death penalty is they get killed. No.
No. They get caught. The jails are full of people that perpetrated terror attacks.
But these people don't. They go into these attacks hoping for death. They're martyrs. They want to go. I don't think that's a. I don't think that's a repellent.
That's not true. The people, and you have to go beyond that. You have to have a death penalty for terrorists. It's not gonna. It may not eliminate terror. Okay, it's not going to eliminate it because you have your crazies. Okay, but you have the leadership.
They're all crazy if they're committing a terror attack.
But the leadership has to be punished, and you punish the leadership by taking away their citizenship and expelling them from the country.
Well, that's what I remember. We discussed this a long time ago. I said that maybe it's time that we start closing these checkpoints and saying you can't go to work today.
Yeah, but you know what? My friend Shalom Pollack.
I know you said that the Israeli companies need the Arabs to come work. But guess what? These are 7 families. Those are Yusaimim and Almanas, and they don't care. Work is not important to them right now. They just lost their entire world. What is work? Work is worth the price of losing lives like this? No.
I know I told you this story. I know we're doing this a long time already, but I told you a story about 20 years ago. There was a terror attack, and a man who owns a business in Israel was shot in the head by a Palestinian worker. And they were sitting Shiva, the family, and they closed. I don't know who was prime minister at the time. They closed the territories. They didn't let anybody in. And one of the sons said to one of the government officials, "I know you closed the territories, but could you let our workers in? Because our factory can't function." So you see, everybody.
That's the opinion of one person. I think I'm not going to judge that person, but today's day and age, it can't happen.
This is where this is where Ben Gvir, who's the public security minister, stands.
Let me ask you a question. Ben Gvir's his policy about you can't wave Palestinian flags after a terror attack is committed. They were shooting fireworks and giving out candies in Gaza.
Those people should be subjected to the same punishments. That means
was it done? Was it enforced?
Losing. It just started.
Who's enforcing it?
You're the one that said it happened 36 hours ago.
Who's enforcing it though? Itamar Ben Gvir is going himself.
No, it has to be. He has to give a direction to the police and to the military.
Oh, so the police are going to go into Gaza,
and there'll be blistering pressure from the Europeans and the Americans not to do it, because don't forget, since this whole business started on Friday night, and there isn't a day that goes by there isn't some kind of terror attack. Maybe you don't hear about it. And by the way, not to go off too much on a tangent, even though that's our specialty. But I have to tell you that I watched the news the whole weekend, Fox News and reading the Wall Street Journal.
Besides around Shabbos.
And I buy the Wall Street Journal on Friday so I can read it over Shabbos. Otherwise, I read it electronically. I even bought the New York Times because I like some of their stories that are not editorial based, Yeah. And I even cut out one that I want to talk to you about in a minute if you have time, relevant to this. But there was no coverage of those Neve Yaakov
well, no,
murders.
You know what the coverage was? The New York Times headline was attack in Israel after a deadly weekend in the West Bank. They pinpointed the attack in Jenin as it's an eye for an eye. Although Israel killed 8 armed terrorists and they killed 7 civilians, like I said, including a 14-year-old, the New York Times drew a parallel between those 2 attacks.
All right, listen, the State Department has the same cliches, They asked for both sides to de-escalate, to stop the cycle of violence. It's not a cycle of violence. It's a guy with a gun hiding outside of a shul, killing people as they leave shul to go home for their Shabbos Suda.
Let me ask you a question also. When was the last time a 13-year-old Israeli killed anyone? Killed any Arab? Any Palestinian?
You're not going to find
a 13-year-old in Yerushalayim. Shoot!
You're not gonna find it. This is what Yitzhak Shamir said, that they get their Jew hatred in their mother's milk. It's not something that they learn in high school or in college.
I think it's something that they're taught. I disagree. I think it's something that they're taught. I'm not saying they don't get it as well, but I think it's something that they're taught in their schools.
Anyway,
and guess what? They're taught in the schools that are funded by the United Nations, by the way.
Right.
They're funded by UNRWA. They're funded by these people.
All right, remember this case? Here's a case from New York. I bet you don't remember it even. Remember the guy drove his truck onto a bike path
on
the west side of Manhattan and ran over a bunch of people, killed 8 people? that were riding bicycles on a beautiful October afternoon in 2017.
Okay.
This happened in 2017. You know how many years ago?
6 years
that is?
ago.
That's 5.5 years ago. Anyway, the guy is an Uzbeki. His name was Seyfalo Sepov. He's a 34-year-old guy from Uzbekistan. And last week, the jury found him guilty of...
Last week.
After
6 years.
No, it was primarily delayed because of COVID.
Oh, okay.
Okay? The courts were closed for a few years.
Okay.
So the guy was sitting in jail. The guy wasn't home. He wasn't playing golf. He was in jail.
Right.
Okay? No bail, in this case anyway. But... So Trump was president when this happened, and Trump said, one of the things Trump said, and his attorney general at the time, Bill Barr, agreed that there should be a death penalty for a guy like this.
Guy killed 8 people.
Guy killed 8 people. As a matter of fact, 2 were from New York, 4 were from Argentina, and I think 3 others were from...
So it's an international crime.
Belgium, right. Anyway, Donald Trump at the time tweeted, should get death penalty. Okay? So this guy's lawyer figured that Trump's not president anymore. He should appeal to the Biden administration. They're not for the death penalty for anybody.
Right.
Unless you're a fetus, then they're not for the death penalty otherwise. But surprisingly, Attorney General Merrick Garland said no, the one of the options and the penalty phase of the trial begins next week on February 6th. And they were appealing that the option for death penalty, for capital punishment, should be removed. It should be life in prison or life in prison. Those are the 2 choices that this guy gets. Right now, it's life in prison or execution, either by lethal injection or electric chair or whatever the mechanism is to do such a thing. Anyway, surprisingly, Biden's Attorney General, Merrick Garland, said no, capital punishment should stand in this case. So if leftists... a weak America is willing to leave the death penalty on the books for terrorists, certainly Kal v'chomer, certainly Israel should be able to have, and believe me, after they execute the first terrorist, I'm not going to say it's going to eliminate terrorism 100%. Like you say, they want to be martyrs.
They do.
But you know what? They're really big chickens. They want the next guy to be martyrs. And the people that send them, the leaders, they don't send their own children. They send their neighbors. They send someone else's children to blow themselves up or to shoot.
Yeah, I mean, Bin Laden lived for many years. He never martyred himself. He just martyred other people.
The leaders of Hamas and the leaders of the Palestinian Authority, their kids are in New York at NYU. They're at Columbia University. They're at University of Pennsylvania.
Are they really?
Yeah. They shouldn't. They get educated. They get educated in the United States.
I mean, if that's true, they shouldn't really be here, no?
Well, you can't. You simplify things.
Well, I don't know why. I don't know. Maybe I'm just simplifying it too much, but I just feel like
no. You don't simplify it, but you have your opinions are black or white, and there's a long distance between black and white. There's a lot of gray between black and white. Yeah, but I think that's how you dress.
I think the gray is distraction, though. I think
Anachi, a civilized world cannot live with black and white. Look what happened in Memphis with those 5 cops who murdered this 29-year-old guy. Okay,
but he was younger. He was just 29. I thought he was younger.
29 years old.
He's 23.
He's 29.
Okay.
I think he's 29. The biggest shock for the media is that, and this is a difficult conversation to have. The biggest shock for the media is that the 5 policemen that killed him were all black. Yeah. And he was black. They took the main story out of CNN's arsenal.
Well, they
can't call it racism.
Yeah. First of all, I mean, I totally condemn that attack. I think that those officers should be held responsible. It was a disgusting act of violence. What was done?
They were fired. They're going to go on trial. They're charged with second-degree murder, and there'll be a trial.
100%.
But there's no racism in the equation.
But here's where it gets a little bit interesting. The protests around the world are still about the racism and the BLM and talking about white supremacy. Again, this was an attack that was not committed by any white police officer.
There's a lot of mystery surrounding this case that still has to come out. Number one, they pulled him over and they pulled him out of the car right away. It's not like they asked him to step out of the car and he refused.
So maybe it was premeditated.
Something else happened.
Maybe it was premeditated. Maybe it was first-degree murder.
Something else happened, and we don't know yet what happened. It'll come out at the trial. But something else happened, but we don't know what the history is, and they're not going to talk now.
I think whatever happened.
They're all
first of all,
up.
can I ask you a question? These cops, are that They're that dumb. They know they're on camera. They know that they have body cameras.
It's their own camera. It's their own camera.
Camera recording your chest. What do they think is going to happen?
I don't know. I can't put myself in that frame of mind. But apparently, when you're in that kind of position of
Rage?
power and authority, the guy. I'm not blaming the cops. Chas v'shalom. I'm just saying.
I'm blaming those cops.
Something happened.
Not cops in general. I'm blaming those cops.
But something happened.
But nothing could have happened to beat a guy to death like that.
I don't know. I don't understand. But from their point of view,
there's something called law and order, right?
There's nothing.
They don't get to decide this guy's fate.
It's a big failure of the police department in Memphis. By the way, I think they said 65% of Memphis. First of all, the crime in Memphis is the highest of any major city in the United States.
Really, higher than Chicago?
Higher than Chicago, higher than New York. It's tremendous amount of crime.
Interesting.
And it's also the majority. It can't be race. Can't be systemic racism because 65% of the Memphis police force is African American, is black. The population is over 60% black. So it can't be that. They're being victimized by white supremacy, even though it didn't stop the commentators on CNN from saying that it have elements of white supremacy in it. Yeah,
of course. They did say that. Talk to us a little bit about what's going on with Ilhan Omar.
With who?
Ilhan Omar.
Oh, Ilhan Omar. Well, listen, I think she covers her hair very nicely.
Yeah, very nicely.
You never see any of her hair. She was yesterday on.
But she definitely shows her true colors.
Yes, but she's
the face of modern day anti-Semitism.
Yesterday she said she didn't know that there's any kind of criticism about saying that Jews have a special relationship or have a special way with money. When she said the Jews are all about the Benjamins.
Oh yeah,
referring to Benjamin Franklin, who's on the bill, on the $100 bill. She said she didn't know there was such a thing. She didn't know that was an anti-Jewish or anti-Israel.
Okay, great. So she doesn't belong in Congress. She belongs in 4th grade. Maybe go back to learning.
I have to tell you something. Hold on to your seat. She's elected from a district in Minnesota that's majority Jewish.
Yeah.
Okay, and she's reelected, and she's been elected again. Okay, had a good opportunity. A month ago? When was the election? 2 months ago. A good opportunity to vote her out and put someone else in. Somebody else ran against her, but they didn't vote for her. They voted Ilhan Omar back into.
So what's going on now? I know she was fired from something.
No, she wasn't fired. Kevin McCarthy, who is the Speaker of the House, doesn't want her to sit on the House Foreign Relations Committee. Okay, but there has to be a majority vote to keep her off the committee. Okay, and right now, as of today, McCarthy does not have the votes to keep her off the committee. So she's probably going to be on the Foreign Relations Committee. The Foreign Relations Committee gets intelligence briefings. It's top secret stuff. A lot of the kind of things that are in Biden's sock drawer, and she gets information from about the Middle East, about Israel, about the Palestinians, about the Abraham Accords. She gets top secret clearance on the Intelligence Committee, and if someone that has harbors this kind of animosity clearly towards Jews, despite what she said yesterday. Which is not believable,
right.
Is a potential danger to the United States. But he needs 218 votes in the House to keep her. The Democrats appointed her already to the Foreign Relations Committee.
Of course.
Okay. So and now the rest of the House can vote on taking her off the committee, which means removing her from the committee. But you have a couple of Republicans who don't want to remove her from the committee.
How come?
They think that the Democrats should be allowed to appoint whoever they want to appoint, and the Republicans should be able to appoint whoever they want to appoint. Okay, and all the committees now are going to have a Republican majority because the Republicans have the majority in the House. And when it comes to issues to vote on, if the Republicans stick together, which is more challenging than the Democrats stick together. The Democrats stick together on these committees even though they don't know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they can be absent and they stick together and they vote along with the majority. The Republicans are a little bit of a different story. Anyway, when it comes to keeping Ilhan Omar off the House Foreign Relations Committee, there's a couple of Republicans. The majority is very, very small. It's 222 to 212 right now, which means you need 218 votes to keep it off the committee. There's a congressman in Florida, a Republican, Congressman Stube, who fell off the roof of his house while he was pruning a tree, and he's very badly hurt, so he can't make it to vote in the House. And McCarthy did away with absentee voting. during COVID, when Nancy Pelosi was the speaker, she said you could vote absentee. You could call in and say, "Hello, I'm voting in favor. I'm in the Bahamas, but I'm voting against this or I'm voting for that." No more. Now, if you're not president in Washington, you can't vote. Anyway, Congressman Stube, who fell off his roof, unfortunately, he was on a ladder and fell off his roof, injured himself pretty badly. He's not coming to Washington.
His last name is Stoop?
What? Stube. Steube. Stube.
Okay.
And so he's recovering right now. So you can't count on his vote. So that means that there's a couple of Republicans already said they don't want to mix into Democrats' business. They don't want to tell Democrats who they can and cannot have on their committees.
Very interesting.
What else you have?
Well, I think a lot of the news in the Jewish world is surrounded around what is going on, what has happened in Israel. We're obviously waiting to see what the response is. We always find it very interesting that as soon as something like this happens, Israel right away, their IAF is bombing, missile houses and houses of Hamas. So they know exactly where everything and everyone is.
Yeah, but Hamas and these other groups seem to have unlimited storage.
Well, where are they getting it from?
Unlimited stockpile.
Where are they getting their weapons from?
I don't know
Egypt?
where it's coming from.
Syria?
It comes in from Iran through Syria. It comes in from Iran through Lebanon.
Let me ask you, what is the objective of Blinken right now heading to the Middle East to achieve what he wants to call peace? Well, when someone says the word peace, it implies that two sides are fighting with each other, right? And we need to make peace between them. But in this situation, in this scenario, I don't think it's the right terminology. I don't think it's the right thing to even say. Don't come to Israel and say, okay, well, how can we make peace with them? The second they put down their weapons and put down their guns, everything will be fine. The second the Israelis put down their weapons and their guns, you'll have more dead Jews. If that guy in Yerushalayim didn't have a gun when that 13-year-old opened fire, there'd be more dead Jews.
Nachi, I said it here a few times because it was relevant. Bilam in his prophecy in Parshas Balak saw the future and said, "I see a nation that lives apart." And this is Klal Yisrael's destiny. We have to be isolated and we have to live apart. But we spend all our time as a people trying to get the world to accept us, when the divine prophecy is for Klal Yisrael to live separate and apart in a dignified and in a constructive way, not to assimilate, as has been the effort for the last 100 years in the United States, and not to melt, not to become a melting pot. So we have to be able to appreciate that segment, that aspect of that prophecy.
So there are two people who were on vacation last week.
Listen, a lot of people were on vacation last week.
It's true.
And Baruch Hashem, people are starting to filter back. This morning,
I'm kind of enjoying the open parking here. It's pretty empty.
Yeah, I found a nice parking space this morning.
If anybody wants to stay in Cancun and in Florida, maybe look into staying long term.
I saw they want to move some of the 42,000 immigrants that are currently in New York City. They want to move some of them up to the Catskills because there's much more room up there.
Oh gosh!
Come on, you got camps that are. You got a camp. Camp is empty a whole winter. You can get it. They can get big bucks. I'm not saying Camp Monk. I know you're thinking that. You think I'm thinking about Camp Monk. I'm not.
Maybe
there's
wrong.
A lot of camps. There's a lot of camps up there that would take them for the winter. $500 a night from the federal government.
Maybe
in the Square camp.
I just don't.
I just picked a random. I'm not saying Square.
I just don't know what the condition of the camp would be after they leave.
Well, they're gonna have a lot of money. They'll be able to build new bunks in June.
Okay. Well,
they'll be able to build.
I think it's a good thing that you don't run a camp.
Well, I'm just saying that there's a lot more room up in the Catskills than there is in.
It's all about the Benjamin,
in the city. No, it's good business, I think.
Am I allowed to say that?
You can say it's all about the Benjamins. You're making fun of Ilan Omar.
Yeah.
But she says she didn't know. She didn't know that there was an anti-Semitic trope. I don't know if she knows what an anti-Semitic trope means.
I don't think
someone told her to use the words anti-Semitic trope.
I don't think she knows what trope is, yeah.
I don't think she knows what a trope is. I mean, trope is, forget about it.
Yeah.
Anyway, people are filtering back. This morning, I think, for the last week, with my daily minion, we had to wait for number 10 to walk in.
Really?
But today we had about 15, 17 people. So people are filtering back slowly but surely. Some of the schools even started today. In some areas, a lot of them don't start till the end of the week. But along with the great time that people had all over the world came, unfortunately, some tragedies, and it's like spinning a wheel. You don't know which community it's going to hit. And here in the Five Towns, we had a terrible tragedy with the passing of Marty Weissman, who owned Ezra Pharmacy right up the block, a couple of blocks from here, on Central Avenue, and he was in Aruba, and he died he was scuba diving with his son, and according to the reports I read, had a heart attack, and that's a lethal formula, having a heart attack and
underwater
while
with
you're
limited
scuba diving.
oxygen.
And then there was a doctor also from Cherry Hill, New Jersey, Dr. Saul. The last name was Saul, Saul. Also, I don't know too much about him. Cherry Hill, New Jersey is like at the end of New Jersey, right near Philadelphia, and he was in a swimming or a underwater deep sea diving type of accident, and big tragedies for a community, and tragedies for the family, of course. And Marty Weissman was a well-known figure here for decades.
Yeah,
very popular pharmacy, tremendous name in terms of chesed that he did for people. But he passed away in Aruba, which is a different country, and Achiezer had to work, for a day and a half to get his body returned to New York. So they had a levaya yesterday, and now the family is sitting shiva.
Yeah. And I just want to say before we wrap up this episode, we are requesting and encouraging the listeners to say Tehillim for the wife of Rabbi Shlomo Farhi, who's undergoing a surgery right now as we speak. Her name is Chana Bat Sima Fega. That's Chana Bat Sima Fega. To please daven for her to have a refuah shalema, that everything should go well, that the surgery should go smoother than the doctors even can imagine. This is on the request of Rabbi Farhi himself.
She's been right, you should have a refuah shlema, b'karev mamish. And on a lighter note, I don't know how many minutes you're into this. Where are you up to?
27. On
a lighter note, we're besides right when you finish yeshiva week, which is over now, pretty much, or ending at the end of this week. I started to write about it this morning. That's why I'm bringing it up. I'm thinking maybe if I talk about it, I'll come up with some new ideas. But we're heading into Super Bowl mode.
Oh,
Super Bowl is 2 weeks from yesterday.
Yes,
and that's
it's in 2 weeks from yesterday. Yeah,
that's a kosher event. Super Bowl's a kosher event.
I don't know how you figure.
It's a Super Bowl. Let me tell you something. We'll talk about Super Bowl later in the week.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. I made a cheshbon that. When does the game start? 6:30 on the 12th. 6:30.
Yeah.
So that means it's going to start at 1:30 in the morning in Eretz Yisrael. This game's going to start, and a lot of yeshiva guys are going to be, in their favorite places to watch the game.
Not Rabbi Center's yeshiva.
I don't know which yeshiva.
They have Super Seder. They learn all night. They learn all night, and they go to the kosel in the morning.
They don't watch the game at all.
They don't watch. I mean, maybe they DVR it and they watch it later.
They watch it later during the day, during regular hours.
Maybe.
The point is this. I'm going to speak to. We have a writer in Yeshiva in Eretz Yisrael that writes in the paper every other week. I'm not going to say his. I mean, you know his name, but I want to speak to him first.
Sure.
About what his Super Bowl plans are.
We're also going to speak to the shliach in Arizona.
Yes, I'm going to speak to Rabbi Shalom Lu, who is a shliach in Glendale,
that's where the Super Bowl is in Arizona,
and I'm sure he is gearing up for.
You think, Abba? You think we could send somebody down for the Daily Threat to cover some of the Super Bowl festivities? See how many tefillin, get a mitzvahim count.
Well,
maybe we send Yossi Farrow down there. You know Yossi Farrow?
No, who's Yossi?
Yossi Farrow is this young kid.
Why don't you send Zions down there? What's his name?
I think Yossi Farrow would be great because Yossi Farrow just raps tefillin on like celebrities, and he's in California.
Oh, really? He's in California.
So I think maybe we can get Yossi. We can get Yossi down to Arizona. Yeah.
We need someone to go to Glendale, to the Chabad house in Glendale, either over Shabbos of the Super Bowl weekend, or maybe on Sunday morning of Super Bowl Sunday, to see who comes to daven. Who's there for breakfast.
I'm curious, when people are online getting into the Super Bowl, how many people are going to be rapping tefillin?
All right, that's a separate thing. But I'm talking about people. Not everybody. First of all, it's not like winter break. Winter break, everybody. If you can't go to Cancun or Panama, so you drove to the Catskills to a friend's summer home, or you went to American Dream or whatever it is. You did something. Not everybody could go to Glendale, Arizona for the day for the Super Bowl.
No, certainly not.
Tickets are thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Okay. But I think, based on my limited knowledge of sports, I think it's going to be a great Super Bowl. I think.
We'll see.
I think Patrick Mahomes is a great quarterback.
Listen, as long as the refs keep the whistle out of their mouth, hopefully it'll be a good game.
And the quarterback for Philadelphia is, what's his name?
Jalen Hurts. Big chizik. Jalen Hurts. When he was in college, he was benched. He was benched, and he had to.
Who's the main quarterback for Philadelphia that was injured?
Jalen Hurts is the main quarterback.
He's the first string quarterback.
Yeah.
Wasn't Geno Smith quarterbacking a few weeks ago for Philadelphia?
No, it's the Seahawks. It's a different bird. One is the Eagles and one is the Seahawks.
See,
it's a common misunderstanding.
I'm not a bird watcher. I get mixed up about.
You think maybe
things.
the Eagles and the Seahawks get together and talk about like bird food and stuff like that?
It could be. Maybe they eat bird food.
Maybe. Who knows?
Okay,
well, anyways, that's our episode for today.
Okay.
We will see you again tomorrow here on the Daily Thread. Make sure to leave a review, rating, subscribe to this channel, and we will see you again tomorrow.